If you desire to walk in alignment with your purpose, to live a life of joy, abundance, and fulfillment, you've come to the right place. This is Sarah Locke, and welcome to Purpose Unlocked.
Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about something that I've talked about multiple times before, and that is my fertility journey. And I wanted to give some updates. Unfortunately, I did experience a miscarriage about a week or two ago, or I've been experiencing it for the past 2 weeks, I guess would be a more accurate description. So I just wanted to share that and be an open book for people that have gone through that same loss or are trying to have a baby and struggling. And there's just so many people that go on this fertility journey thinking it's going to be easy because, we're told when we're younger, like, don't have sex because you're definitely going to get pregnant and die kind of thing. And the truth is, sometimes it's actually really hard to get pregnant, and sometimes it's really hard to stay pregnant. And I just want to be transparent about the reality of the situation and a safe place for other people that have experienced the same thing because it really sucks. So I just want to go over kind of the timeline of events that happened to me. I know that my experience is not the same as everybody's experience. Miscarriage is very, very different for different people. I feel like I was pretty lucky that it happened kind of early in my pregnancy. They do say that if it happens early in pregnancy, that's usually a sign that there was some type of genetic abnormality. And I do want to have a healthy, healthy, healthy baby. So, if those were the things that were going on and that baby was going to be sick or have something extremely wrong with it, I'm glad that it passed the way that it was supposed to. Yeah, the timeline of events that happened for me, I know that spotting early in pregnancy is actually pretty normal and it's not a sign of anything bad. I did have a little bit of spotting like really early on. So I don't know if that was a sign of things to come, but it started on January 12th is when it started. And that's when like I was spotting like regularly throughout the day, like it kept happening. Then that definitely made me a little bit nervous. But my mother-in-law's a nurse and I did tell her about it and she said, that's normal, like it should stop. And then the next day it only got worse and that's when it was Tuesday afternoon. That's when I started to get legitimately nervous and think like this could be the beginning of something bad. By Wednesday, the cramping and the bleeding had gotten pretty significant, and that's when I knew. I do know that there are people that experience heavy bleeding at the beginning of a pregnancy and everything still comes out fine. So just because if you're pregnant and having some bleeding, don't immediately assume it's a miscarriage. Like you have to kind of wait and find out from your doctor, unfortunately. That was my experience, and I did just feel sometimes you can just feel it in your gut that things are not going right. So that's how I felt. So by Wednesday, I was pretty positive that that's what was happening. And I would say the emotions that I was feeling during that time, the first day, the first day I was still feeling hopeful. Like just the spotting, I was like, okay, like this could still be normal. It could not be a big deal. The second day, I did write in my journal, and I brought my journal because it's kind of like my notes from what exactly was going through my mind as it was happening. I said, I'm having trouble understanding what I'm feeling. Part of me is now dreading Friday, which Friday is when I had my doctor's appointment. And part of me doesn't even want to know, but I also wish it would just come right now, because I want to understand what's happening. And I know that that doesn't make sense. It was like, I really don't want to know, but yes, I do want to know. But like, don't tell me, but tell me right now. And I can't explain what that feels like, but if that makes any sense to you, or if you've been through this, you'll know that like I just want to know what's going on with my body, but like do not tell me that it is what I think it is. And then my husband was worried that I was feeling anxious. I was like, I'm not feeling anxious. Anxious was not the emotion that I was feeling. I was feeling deeply, deeply sad because I felt like I knew what was happening already. I would say Tuesday and Wednesday, I was really, really, really upset. Like, couldn't stop crying. And then Wednesday and Thursday is when I started getting like my sadness was turning into anger. Like, I was just so angry. At first, I was angry at Mark, and I was like, why am I angry at him? Like, he did nothing wrong. And then I was like really angry with God. Then I was really, 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 really angry at the situation and the fact because then when you start miscarrying, there's all this bleeding and bloating. And if you've been pregnant, in the first trimester, there's a ton of bloating anyway. Like you're like, I'm not really showing that I'm pregnant yet. I just look bloated and fat. And so that's annoying. And then when you're miscarrying, you're like, okay, cool. Now I'm bloated and fat and I'm not even having a baby. So there's that. I was just infuriated. And I had already gained a few pounds from pregnancy, which is normal. And I was like, well, if I'm miscarrying, like the pregnancy weight better come off right away, or I'm going to be really mad. Because then, if you're pregnant, you're anticipating that like your clothes are going to get tight, and then your maternity clothes are going to fit, and maternity clothes are adorable, and you get to show off your little bump. Well, now I'm like, cool, now my clothes are getting tight, and I'm not going to be getting into maternity clothes. Now I'm going to have to like figure out what next steps are there. And like, if you've ever had body dysmorphia, I don't recommend having a miscarriage because it will like bring body dysmorphia back full force times like 10. So that was awful. So that was another reason that I was super, super angry. And I also feel like being really, really angry feels a little bit better than being really, really sad. So that's why I kind of leaned into the anger. Then I want to say over the weekend, I started accepting it. And then I also passed something that I'm assuming was whatever had formed of the placenta and the fetus is what had passed over like Friday, Saturday timeframe. And which is actually a really good thing because if those things don't pass on their own, then you have to either go on medication or have what's called a DNC. I really didn't want to have those things because I hear that they can be painful. I have not had to do that. I kind of let things happen on their own, and my doctor was fine with me doing that. And that is what happened. And then I would say by like Saturday, Sunday, I finally stopped feeling super sad and angry and accepted it. And I was hopeful. Like, I'm hopeful now that we're still going to have another super, super healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy. I do feel like once I get pregnant again, I might be a little bit more nervous slash cautious. We will see when that time comes, and I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Yeah, that is kind of my timeline of events. I know that that sounds really fast to come to terms with things and to not be super sad and angry anymore. I do still like randomly cry about it. So I'm pretty adamant about running from pain instead of sitting in it because I don't like to feel sad. I really don't like to feel sad and I really don't like crying. Like those are not fun emotions for me. And if you know me, you're like, well, you do kind of cry. Like I don't cry. I wouldn't say I cry a lot, but I am an emotional person. If I do get sad, I will cry. Also, if I get really, really angry, I will also cry. But I don't like feeling those things. So I was like, I would rather be hopeful about the future and just trust in God's plan for my life. So that is where I am right now. And I wanted to share that.
What surprised you most about how you felt?
I think first, not knowing how I was feeling. And then I guess I was surprised at how sad I was because, again, luckily it was early enough. It was between the 8 and 9 week mark is when it happened. Like that's when my body started rejecting it. And then when I went to the doctor on Friday, I found out that it actually stopped growing a while ago. So it was much smaller than what like an 8 or 9 week old fetus should look like. Because I hadn't been to the doctor, I never saw the heartbeat. I didn't know the gender. It was still like very, very early. So I was surprised at how upset I was. Like I was surprised at how sad I was and how much I was crying because I was trying to rationalize it and say like, you didn't know the gender, you never saw the heartbeat. Like it was barely the size of a raspberry or blueberry or whatever fruit it was supposed to be that week. And, it didn't even look like a baby yet. Like it was still like this tadpole looking ball of cells or whatever. And I tried to use rational thinking to get myself through it. And like that didn't work. And normally that works for me with certain things. I'm very much in my head going to rationalize my pain away. And I'm going to be like, no, like this, there's no reason to be sad. Like you didn't even know it. You didn't have a name planned, any of that. I tried, and that didn't work. It didn't work at all. And normally it does for me. So I was surprised at how sad I was, considering how early along I was. And I will add to that, there are people that are even more upset and more emotional about the whole experience than I even was. That is totally within your right. There are also people that I know still give theirs a name. I don't want to say baby because I'm not calling mine a baby because I don't want to. You can, but I'm not going to. You, as in someone else that has gone through this. People will still refer to, I say it. People will refer to it as he or she, or they will name it. And I'm not going to do that. Again, I don't knock it if it's for you, but it is not for me. And I would rather distance myself from it than connect with it. That's my opinion.
What are some misconceptions between like how people think a miscarriage is versus what it actually is and feels like?
Yeah, I was just thinking like, oh, okay, it's just going to be like 2 times as bad as like a regular period. And that is not the case. So there's a lot more cramping and a lot more grossness. I'll spare you the details, but it's not like getting a period. It's way more severe than that. And I feel like there's also misconceptions from not my generation, but the generation above me. I don't think that this is something that was ever talked about like before our generation. So I know like my girlfriends will talk about it and we'll share our stories and the pain and the hurt and everything that comes with that and it's much more normalized whereas in previous generations I think it's something that like you just dealt with on your own. Like you did not talk about it. Like it was kind of like, yeah, move on. Also, I think that that's also why most people won't start sharing that they're pregnant until 12 to 14 weeks, because that's when you're a lot less likely to miscarry. So that's why traditionally people would never share that they were pregnant until after the first trimester in case anything like that happened. And I've always said I suck at keeping good news a secret. So for me, it's like, and it's a baby. Like, I don't want to keep a baby a secret. Like, that's so exciting. And we have something to look forward to. It's like this new life. Anyway, I can't keep that a secret. I do have a tendency to tell people, especially like my family and friends, like people that I see a lot. But then when you tell people, then like you also have to then share the bad news, like that it didn't work out. And that part is really hard and that part really sucks. I wasn't ready to do that at first. Luckily, I was like sick as a dog and we couldn't go to church that weekend anyway, but we kind of played hooky from church so that I didn't have to tell people. Yeah, the misconception from the older generation is that it's not something that you should be grieving. It's just something that you should like forget about and move on. And I don't think that that's a normal way to look at it. Also, you're dealing with a ridiculous amount of hormones because you were just pregnant and your body just lost it. Like your hormones are going crazy. So you're dealing with like basically postpartum-ish, but like it's all happening at once. It's a lot of hormones, a lot of craziness, and a lot of like grieving that you weren't expecting to have to do. And so there's a lot of people that don't understand that. So perhaps that's another reason that I want to talk about it because I think we need to give women more grace that are dealing with these things.
And what is one takeaway you want listeners to have from this episode?
That it is unfortunately really common, but if you're going through it, you're not alone. There are a lot of women that you could talk to and just find comfort and understanding that a lot of us have had to go through this type of pain. I will also say, I don't know if this is true. I feel like it's true for me personally. I think it would be a lot harder to go through if it was my first pregnancy. I know a lot of people that have gone through it with their first one or two pregnancies, like before they've had children. And then when they do finally get pregnant with the one that sticks and turns into a full-blown baby, like they're so scared to tell people. And I just remember like when we were trying to get pregnant with Kingston, like it took us a long time. And I can't imagine going through that and then losing it. At least this time, I have a healthy baby at home that I can like snuggle and love on him. And it made me like love and appreciate him even more than I already do, which I didn't feel possible. But I can't imagine going through all of that without having had a successful pregnancy already. I think that that would be even harder.
Is there anything that I haven't asked or that we haven't talked about yet that you would like to add?
A lot of people will just say sorry, give you a hug, pray for you kind of thing. But there are people that have asked me a lot of questions, and I am totally open to answering people's questions to the best of my knowledge. I am not a doctor, and I can't speak for everyone who's gone through a miscarriage. So take this with a grain of salt. But I've had people ask, can you start trying right away? Now, my understanding is yes, you can. As long as you pass everything and your body's ready, then you can start trying and you can get pregnant right away. I had one woman tell me that she had a miscarriage. Her doctor had advised her to not start trying right away, but they did anyway, and they did actually get pregnant with a healthy pregnancy right afterwards. I think that that is going to look different for everybody. I also know that if you're the type of person who is taking it really, really hard, you might be scared to try again and go through a possible loss again. So you have to also judge how emotionally ready are you and your partner to start trying. So that's going to be a very individual thing that you have to decide. For me, I am not scared to keep trying. I look forward to having another healthy baby. I am also not getting any younger, so time is not exactly on my side. And I say that in jest because it's like after 35, you are statistically, unfortunately, twice as likely to experience a miscarriage than people that are younger. Now, I say that, and I also have plenty of girlfriends who are much younger than me and have experienced miscarriage, some at very young ages. I know plenty of people that has happened to. So even if you are a super healthy 22-year-old, this could still happen to you, unfortunately. You're not immune because of your age. And being over 35 doesn't guarantee you're going to have a miscarriage. In my case, I am over that threshold and I did. So if you are listening and any of this resonates with you, or if you know someone that has gone through a miscarriage, I just wanted to share this information because it is something that is really emotional. I think it's something that everyone handles very differently. And I'm the type of person that I try to be an open book with how I'm feeling, especially emotionally, because I feel like emotions aren't something that our culture talks about enough. And if we don't have the words to explain it, it's really hard to communicate that or to even understand it, whether it's for ourselves or understanding it for someone else and what they're going through. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to drop them in the comments or send me a private message. But I'm happy to answer anything that anybody would want to talk about. If you're going through this and you're on your fertility journey, if you have had awful bumps and roadblocks in the way, know that you're not alone. I am there with you. And we will get through this and we are going to make a healthy, 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 beautiful baby on the other side of this. Until next time, please keep me in your prayers and I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thanks.
thank you for the precious gift of your time. If you found this helpful, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with someone you love. Until next time, count your blessings, love yourself, and stay fabulous.